It's Tuesday, February 8th, 2011. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, our PAX East 2011 pregame show.
Let's do this. So who is the sheriff? Scott is the sheriff.
I would like to note this is the first time ever that Scott has been the sheriff. Usually,
It doesn't matter when. It doesn't matter how many times or for how long. It matters now, right?
Matters now. Matters now.
Packers won the most recent Super Bowl. Steelers have won more Super Bowls.
So
in the past,
Steelers are clearly a better team.
Right now, Packers are on top, and the Steelers not so much.
I would say the team that has more Super Bowls is the better team.
I am the sheriff right now. Therefore, I am the sheriff.
However, you are the sheriff right now. But I know some...
He admits that I am the sheriff right now. Getting the pokey.
Many an embarrassing non-sheriff day for Scott. Many a multiple shot loss.
Yeah, keep your mouth shut, pokey. I'll poke you with a stick through the bars.
So Cold Guy, I think we mentioned this in the MagFest show, gave us an Atari 2600 with RCA and S-Video out.
We had an Atari 7800.
Yep, we still have the Atari 7800, but... it's a giant pain in the ass to make it work on the 52-inch LCD.
Yeah, you need a bunch of weird cables, and it's a little bit flaky. This 2600 is modified to have regular video outputs to a regular old television.
You wouldn't think this would be such a big deal. I was like, yeah, this is cool. We'll play it every now and then. I play that goddamn thing every day.
Well, really? Basically, we'd be like the #1 game. Because a lot of the Atari games, they don't really hold up a lot of water at all. They're tiny. They're like cups, not even buckets.
Well, I mean...
but one game above all the others is actually way awesome and in desperate need of a remake, and that game is Outlaw.
Outlaw!
Which is,
Now, it depends on whether or not you're playing with vincible or invincible cacti.
Well, it has so many modes is sort of what gives it all this replay value.
It has modifier of
it's
ammo.
got cactus, wagon, and wall.
Yeah, it has moving
Vincible
wagon.
and invincible, so that's already 6. Ammo and not ammo, so that's 6 to 18 modes.
There's moving and non-moving wagon. There's moving and non-moving wall, and
19,
there's also target mode.
24. There's at least 30-something modes.
I do love these old Atari games where on the cartridge it'll be like 148 modes, and usually the modes are like drive during the day. Drive during the day slightly faster. Drive during the day slightly faster with more obstacles.
Oh, and then there's also the hard mode, right? Where your bullet disappears if you die.
I note when we turn that mode on, I would win with scores of like 10 to 1.
We only turn that mode on once ever.
You want to turn it back on?
I think we're going to have to play with that mode
Turn it back on?
Yeah.
Maybe we should film. I got a new HD camera. Maybe we can record some matches.
Maybe we should. But the thing is, all right, Outlaw is such a pure and awesome game. 2 cowboys. You shoot a gun at the other cowboy and try to hit him, and you can only shoot straight up or down, and it bounces off the top and bottom walls.
Your cowboy is shaped like a pretzel and consists of like 15 pixels.
But it's so pure and simple, and it still works to this day as a quality multiplayer versus experience.
There's something about the direct competition games like this. Warlords doesn't actually hold up that well. It's too finicky.
Well, I think arcade Warlords would hold up. But
yeah, it would hold up better.
Atari Warlords is kind of weak.
I say Combat holds up just as well. You just
I don't
suck
think
at Combat.
Combat is too... doesn't have the purity
you can't play.
that Outlaw does.
Wait. What's your argument on Counter-Strike? Everyone who doesn't like it just sucks at it? Combat...
No, Combat is different. Combat is...
yeah, because you lose like 100 to nothing stuck
Combat
in the
has
corner.
some serious flaws in it.
Name one.
Well, the fact that when you get shot, right?
It disorients you.
Yeah, you get spun around, so there's a serious momentum factor to the first strike.
Yeah, you've got a plan for that shit.
Right? In addition to that, the way the controls are, right? In order to aim your shot, after you fire it, and then you can turn to have your shot move.
That's only one mode.
I know, but I'm just saying is that in that mode, when you shoot and you want to angle your shot,
I'm sorry
you
that you
rotate
don't have,
your tank at the same time.
I'm sorry, Scott, that you don't have the ability to manage a precision multi-control scheme.
With a really, first of all, and that's a really precision control with a really non-precision controller.
I argue that our controller for the Atari is exceptionally precise. It is perfectly binary in 4 directions.
Yeah, which is not enough for some sort of analog control of
because it's not analog control. That's your problem. You're projecting your desires upon a game that is in fact pure.
It is broken. It's not a good game.
You're also no good at maze craze.
Airplane mode is much better than tank mode.
Wait, biplane mode or jet plane mode?
Either one is better than tank mode.
What about maze craze? What do you have against maze craze?
It's just kind of lame.
How is it kind of like you've never beaten me at Maze Craze?
Yeah, I have, and it's just not exciting.
I might have to take your sheriff's badge away after this.
You had to take it away by force with Mr. Pretzel. Get back in your pen.
So I don't really have video game news I haven't been paying attention to so much, partly because PAX is coming up and I'm putting all my effort into waiting for PAX.
Yep.
But there's a game, a lot of our listeners play it, and they goaded me and Scott and a bunch of us to start playing it with them, or at least next to them. It's a game that really encourages parallel play because Civ 5, Civ 4 served two purposes. It was kind of this multiplayer versus game, and it was also this kind of world building, see what happens game. Like, yeah, Tokugawa totally tried to attack me, but then, something crazy happened.
Civ 5 has some of that.
Not nearly as much.
Well, I think the Civ 5 makes you bring a little bit more of it yourself, like Dwarf Fortress makes you bring some of it yourself.
Yeah, Civ 5 is much less a world-building game and more a win-the-game game, but because the win-the-game game is broken in multiplayer, we basically can't play it.
I wonder if they fixed it by now.
I don't know. I haven't seen
any try it
updates.
again.
But Europa Universalis is the opposite of Civ 5. It is basically the sandbox of, all right, it's the Middle Ages. What country you want to be? You want to be the Ottomans? Let's go. What are your goals? Whatever the fuck you want. Go for it. It's kind of like Grand Theft Auto, but
they give you quests to sort of suggest what you should do to match up with history.
Like I've been playing as Spain, and the first quest is basically finish the Reconquista, which is way easy because it starts you when the Reconquista is already mostly done.
Yep.
But I have complicated feelings about this game. On one hand, I appreciate what it's trying to do. I appreciate the depth and the complexity, the fact that the game responds in unique and interesting ways, that very small actions I take have a very pronounced effect in the long run. However, I have played this game for like 20 hours, and I cannot tell if I actually know how to play it or not.
You have to have someone explain it to you. Otherwise, you're just not going to know what's up.
I got some explanations from listeners. I played through some online suggested tutorials where they walk you through the normal game, and I read the wiki, and I got a good handle on it. I finished the Reconquista. I conquered a bunch of North Africa. I'm totally allied and all these things with all my neighbors. I got trade stuff going on. I got ships headed out to the New World, and I feel like it'll take about 180 more hours of gameplay to figure out if that plan worked or not.
Well, the thing is, you can just speed it up real fast.
Yeah, but then my micromanagement, I gotta micromanage.
You want to micromanage? Like, you want to change the settings every single hour, really?
Pretty much. That's how I've been playing.
That's a problem.
Luckily, the military is pretty abstract.
Most of the settings you do take so long to have any sort of meaningful effect. You've got to let time go by, or else your change didn't actually do anything.
Most of it's diplomacy.
You've got to basically go at least a month before anything actually happens.
I'll basically speed it up, and then as soon as I get a diplomat or something, I got to immediately set it back to 0 because I got to send that diplomat somewhere else.
You could do that.
Yeah. I don't know.
Or you might hold on to the diplomat because you might have a more needy use for him that might appear.
Yeah, I love how you can't declare war because your diplomats are gone and you have no one to send to tell them you've declared war on them.
Yeah, well, you also need a Cassius Bella to declare war.
But I don't know if I like the game or not, but I'm playing it. And it's weird for me because Dwarf Fortress did the same thing. And Minecraft, I play these games. I've got 3 games now where I do not have a strong opinion on them. I enjoy them and I play them, but I don't know if I like them or not. And this is a new experience for me. I mean, as a kid, I'd put in like Spider-Man on the Atari, I'd be like, fuck this game, or E.T. I knew I didn't like it right away. Mario 1, Castlevania 2, I knew I liked them right away. Counter-Strike, I didn't like, and then I liked. These games, I don't know if I like them or not, and I don't know if I'll ever know if I like them or not. And I don't know what to do about that. I need other people to play it to validate my experiences. You can get the games way cheap if you don't get the newest expansion.
Yeah, I'm just sort of, I'm sort of on the Europa Universalis, right? It's got good parts and it's got bad parts, and I don't have a compulsion to play it. But if I turned it on, I could totally, get into it.
I feel like it really shines if you play it with a bunch of people, multiplayer.
Yeah, that might take a while, though.
Yeah, well, I feel like once we all we grok it to some degree, or think we grok it, we should start some sort of big front row crew game where we play for like an hour once a week.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Good luck with that. We've tried that a bunch of times. Never happened. So anyway, I also couldn't find any meaningful gaming news, right? Except for the fact that Kotaku and all the other Gawker sites have a really shitty redesign that everyone complains about. But this time, usually people complain about any change no matter what. This time, I agree with complaining about this change.
Yeah, well, like Twitter, the new one is clearly superior.
Right. But like this new Kotaku and all the new Gawker sites, they don't work in older browsers and they're hard to read and they got glitches and it's not good. Anyway, but on Kotaku, Stephen Totilo, right? He wrote this little article here, Why I Let Nintendo Beat a Video Game for Me, right? And basically, you know, I've been a little bit leery of him, right, since he wrote that other thing, which is like, I can't get Doom to run. I think that there's one major problem in games, right? People like to talk about all the problems in game journalism, right? And we're certainly not modeled game journalists of any.
No, we're not. But at the same time, we can pull the cop out of we don't pretend to be game journalists.
That's right.
We are game journalism commentators.
It's not the job that we're paid to do, right? we're just armchair dudes. But the thing is, I think the one major problem in game journalism that is not ever brought up, right? Because people bring up all sorts of problems, like, oh, the companies pay you money and the advertisements on the, and all that kind of stuff, right? Yep. Here's the problem I think that is the biggest problem is that the game journalists, right? They are not, they do not have expert knowledge of games, right? And they do not have expert skill in games. You know, if you want someone to review a movie, right, a film critic, probably needs to have film knowledge, have gone to film school, should know something about film, right? You know, obviously, if they know a whole bunch about film, they're going to be a director. That's the eternal problem in any area of expertise, right? If you're really good and you really know that much, you're not going to be a critic. You're going to be doing it, right? So someone who's the most qualified game journalist in the world isn't going to be a game journalist. They're going to be a game maker, right? But the thing is, like, obviously, his skill is so low, right? He couldn't even beat this game, which is Donkey Kong Country Returns. There's a new Donkey Kong Country for the Wii, Donkey Kong Country Returns, and it's a hard game, apparently. I guarantee I could beat it. But Nintendo has a mode that they've added, and they've added to, I think, some of their other games recently, which is just a beat this level for me. So you push a button, and then you watch. Donkey Kong will turn gray and turn into Super Kong, and he'll just beat the level on his own. You just watch him.
Wait, now, say you hit that and he beats the level and you get to watch it. Does it also say that you have now beat the level and let you move on?
Yep. You can just beat the whole game. You can just watch the whole game be beaten and see the ending.
On one hand, I don't care.
Oh, after you die 8 times.
On one hand, I don't care because someone who cares about the experience of gaming wouldn't use that option anyway. And people should be able to do whatever they want. Like if someone wants to cheat, fine. On the other hand, are you even trying anymore, Nintendo?
Right. So, you know, he says, you know, he brings up one point, which is like he likes this not because it makes the game easier, but because there are a lot of cliche and boring parts in the game, and this lets him skip over those parts, play the interesting parts, and skip the boring parts.
Well, as a journalist, shouldn't he then say that the game is full of boring parts and they had to hack together this mechanic to let you skip them? Why'd I pay for this 40-hour game that only has 4 hours of content?
Yeah, it's pretty much like, all right, look, we'll make this big old game, and it has good parts and shitty parts, but we put this thing so you can skip the shitty parts. Now it's a great game, right? No, it's still a shitty game with plenty of shitty parts. Allowing me to skip over the poop doesn't make it smell any better, right? If there's a room that's full of shit and you hold your nose and run past it, it doesn't mean that room is not full of shit, right?
You can definitely tell, at least in game design, like the game designers who think about these things versus the ones who don't. But I don't feel like any journalists think about these things.
No, this guy doesn't even know how to run Doom, right? He had to get help to learn that you had to go get Z-Doom or whatever. Or
just buy it on Steam. It just works.
Engine. It didn't work for him. He couldn't get it to work.
How can you not? Anyway.
Yeah, right? So anyway, I think that this is just, you know, I mean, we've talked about this kind of thing 100 times. Like, people have no skills, and you got to have, you know, it's the same bullshit over and over again.
We've been called haters.
Yeah. Well, haters gonna hate, so we're gonna keep hating. Pretty much what it comes down to is if a game has boring parts like this, just don't play the game at all, rather than, you know, watch the game. This isn't even a game with like plots that you could watch. There's a reason to watch it on YouTube, right? Because it's basically the equivalent, right? Is watching on YouTube. There's not even a reason to watch this game on YouTube because it's not a story game, really.
Well, think about from the gameplay or game design perspective, too. Like, part of what makes Super Meat Boy such an interesting risk-reward cycle is that the escalating difficulty and the fact that you cannot progress without mastering everything along the way is what provides the fundamental reward that makes the game interesting.
Well, he also mentions that sometimes he would let the guy beat the level, and if the level was interesting but just hard, he would go back and do the level again on his own, but now that he's seen the level be beat and he knows what to do.
That's interesting. I mean, you have to balance the fact that
But what would Meat Boy be like if there was a button you could push to see a perfect Meat Boy in action?
But at the same time, while it removes the discovery, it does not remove the execution.
That's
and I would
true.
argue that Meat Boy is mostly execution and not discovery.
It is.
I always know. I can see that is the way to get that bandage,
But I'm
followed
willing-
by the thought of, fuck that.
Having not played it, I'm willing to wager that in a game such as Donkey Kong Country Returns, that the execution level is far lower than in Meat Boy.
I might agree with
and
you
that
on
discovery would be far more significant a factor in the skill department.
I guess what it boils down to is that most game journalists I see, when they write, even when they write a very hard-hitting article, they tend to preface any criticism with some sort of like, oh, but, you know, game could be fun anyway if you're this type of person. They don't tend to take very negative stances when they're warranted. And two, they very rarely, like, they'll do the surface analysis, but they'll never go deep. They'll never boil something down to the fundamental, like, this is the game mechanic boiled down, and here is the good or bad thing about it.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. It sounds to me like if you get rid of this skip over the level thing, the Donkey Kong Country Returns is just a side-scrolling platforming game that at times gets really hard, but also at times has cliche bits that you've seen 1,000 times before that could be quite boring. And that's pretty much what it comes down to in terms of this particular game. But if you're going to skip over a game, don't even play it. Just do something else. Right? What's the point?
But anyway, things of the day. What do you got for me?
So this is a game called Graph War, right? And it's pretty interesting. It's a free Java web game you play in your browser. You just search for Graph War, you'll find it. And the way it works is you pretty much try to shoot the other guy, you know, sort of like Scorched Earth kind of, right? But you're in a two-dimensional Cartesian plane, and the only thing is that Y is always 0 because your guy is set to Y0, but your guy is not set to X0. So if your guy is positioned at X-10, he's at X-10, right? And then you just type in an equation. It says Y equals, and you can type in whatever maths you want, and then the bullet quotes will emanate from your guy following that math equation. And, you know, I'm playing this game, and I'm like, yeah, Y equals 2x.
I was going a little more clever. I used like a cubic sine function, so I'd get this kind of shotgun scatter of my line.
Yeah, but you should see, the thing is I played against people, right, who knew what they were doing. They're pretty much just cheating. They're like math geniuses. There'll be a screen full of obstacles that you can't shoot through. And they'll make the bullet, it's like they're drawing a line on the screen with a pen. They'll go over one ball, then go straight for a period, then go straight vertical, hit you, come all the way back down, go straight horizontal. It's like, you know, it's like, what the hell is this ridiculous shit?
Well, I don't think they're math geniuses because I was looking at some of these solutions online just a little while ago, and what it seems like is a few people pointed out these very particular functions that let you do that sort of thing on a graph. And these people just kind of memorized those and added them to their clipboard.
Yeah, but at least they're learning some maths.
I don't think they are. I don't think they understand what those functions really mean or imply.
Actually, you know, Graph War, it's like the fundamental idea is pretty creative and pretty interesting. And
play it with your friends without looking at a fact.
And pretty good. And it has advanced modes, the Y prime and Y double prime modes, where it'll integrate your function once or twice before graphing it. That's pretty interesting. But I think here's how I would, if I was going to remake Graph War, here's what I would do. Ready? Number one, whenever it was your turn, right, the 0-0 would always recenter on your guy. So you would actually sort of be moving around in the plane.
That would have made it a little too easy to hit your guys, though.
Hold on. We're going to make it right.
All right.
Number two, you type in a math, and you'll actually get a little blue preview line that shows you where your thing is going to go.
That makes the game too easy.
Hold on. I'm going to make it harder.
I will see.
I got to put in things to make it easier, right? User interface wise. But then you put in things to make it harder, right? So that, because for example, one thing that you could do to make it incredibly hard is you could put a limit on the number of characters you could put in the equation. So it can really force you to like, I can't just be like, a big long thing, oh, it's a little off. Well, add more, numbers up. You can't go any farther than that, right? Something else you could do is you could actually have two people firing simultaneously, right? Because right now, the first player who goes actually has a big advantage because they just get the first shot, they could win. If you're actually going simultaneously, even with a preview and even with the graph being centered on you at 0-0, right, you still have to be faster than the other guy, and you could put in a ton more obstacles, right?
I would go one step further. What I would do is use some other coordinate system or some sort of differential system.
You could have radial mode. You could have, all kinds of modes.
The thing is, there are equations for that, too. I would make, like, a non-uniform, almost non-Euclidean surface.
That's just getting crazy. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the way I was doing
you could also throw in some sort of vector stuff to where you could actually control the velocity of the shot, which right?
That doesn't really make sense, though, in the context of writing an equation for a coordinate system.
It does if you make it more like physics and you add some gravity.
Plus, Scott, you can do that anyway. Just use a kinematic instead of a polynomial. I mean, that would have just worked.
Yeah, it probably would have.
But what I was doing is I used a sign, like a cubic sign, just to make this kind of scatter, and then I would just use a factor to get it close to Scott. Then I'd use another factor, so like plus 3x to the cube minus 2x squared plus 1x, and I would just zoom in by adding a new factor every round.
You know what I've seen guys doing, though, is they'll do crazy shit like it'll come at you, it'll go straight horizontal, then come at you in a straight line diagonally, and then when it gets pretty close to you, it'll burst into a sine wave ridiculously so it can't possibly miss you. It's like shotgun at the last second.
Yeah,
it's like,
it's
cheating.
All the people doing that, I get the copy-paste vibe.
Someone had to figure out the math first.
But
anyway.
Yeah, there are math geniuses, but I don't think the majority of the people you're going to play against in this game are math geniuses.
I don't know. Plus,
because if there are that many math geniuses, why is America not the math genius center?
It's not people in America playing. I know one of our foreign listeners, Lack of Cheese, is supposedly expert at this game and will kill you on the first shot every time, and he is a math genius.
Yeah,
at least compared to us.
Yeah. This is a game that's fun for people who aren't math geniuses and who don't cheat.
Yeah.
Of course, is it? You could argue, I mean, we got our PAX panel on playing to win the game, that it is not, in fact, cheating to read a fact.
I was thinking about if I could develop a tool for this game where you draw a line with like a stylus, and then it would give you the equation. It would do the reverse. That'd be pretty cool.
You know what this game reeks of? Remember the old, like, graphing calculator games you'd play in your TI-85?
That's what I'm saying. This game would be a lot better on a TI-86.
It'd be a good game to teach kids about math, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so I'm trying to not use just college humor things of the day because I have a reputation for using college humor things of the day for various reasons. So
because everything of the day you have is just something from college
board
humor.
Games, especially American board games from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s tend to be pretty awful. But in particular,
not all of them, but many.
But by and large, and a lot of the classic games that people like the Game of Life and Monopoly, are actually pretty shit games if you boil them down. But if you look at games from America from the 70s, they have a pretty interesting kind of style to them you don't see repeated in modern games.
A visual style, right?
Yeah, very well. There are
some like Dune. And,
they have a game
Avalon
design style too. It's the
Steve Jackson games.
It's the roll your dice, move your mice style.
Well, roll your dice, move your mice is like one of the oldest things in all of board games.
Yeah, most 70s board games are mice and dice. However, there's this sort of like pastel or paisley, very bright colors, muted. Look at this. This is a demake. Someone made this game, a Ferris Bueller's Day Off board game, in the style of a 70s American board game.
All right.
And it's pretty rockin'. And I like the graphic design. I like everything about this game except the game, because it is clearly not a good game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you roll your dice, you move, it says, oh no,
Ferris Bueller had his day off.
Yeah, you're at the baseball game, move ahead 3 spaces. Yay.
So very briefly in the meta moment, we are going to be at PAX East doing not 1, not 2, not 3, but 5 panels.
Well, one of the panels is a triple panel.
One panel is actually 3 panels, and then 2 more panels.
Yeah. They're actually lectures, not really panels in the strict sense, but it's considered a panel.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're in panel rooms as far as PAX is concerned, but we'll be there doing that. You can talk to us after that. This Friday, Nerd NYC Board Game Night in Manhattan. We'll be there.
Mm-hmm.
The book club book is still Michio Kaku's Hyperspace, which I finished a while ago, waiting for Scott to finish it.
The week after PAX East is
Zenkai-Con. We will be there
Pennsylvania.
doing a bunch of anime and gaming lectures. Actually, we're doing a lot of old PAX lectures because we like to recycle stuff.
And you should come to our website and our Twitter and our forum and our face and the whole internet.
A lot of new faces in the forum lately. I'm very happy about this.
Everybody should come and find us on the internets and do all our internets things.
Yeah, say hi.
Geeknights things. We got Steam groups, right? You can join the Geeknights Steam group and find people to play games with.
Yeah, the Geeknights Counter-Strike server is down right now because I unplugged it. I'll be plugging it back in as soon as I have time to plug it back in.
All right.
So PAX Boston 2011, it's coming up in what, like 30 days?
Oh, shit, 30 days.
I'm loving this fact that we get a PAX about every 6 months.
We need PAXs every 4 months. Let's get on it, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
Or every 3 months, we'd have 4 PAXs. It would be perfectly even and symmetrical.
But PAX East, PAX Boston, or I think I am actually sadly responsible for bitch PAX.
That's all you.
After asking that question when our beloved benefactors so kindly referred to PAX East last year as the real PAX, and then had to...
Were you going to raise this issue again at the board meeting?
Why, perhaps I am, at the General Assembly. I bring a motion before the board. We have kind of a tradition every year of messing with the Q&A and doing something.
Yep.
I mean, last year at PAX Prime, we brought John St. John.
Yeah. All right. So, PAX East is going to have some good stuff this year, and it's also going to have not bad stuff, but stuff that you will have to be prepared for if you are going. And if you are not going, get out.
Yeah, there's
Retire.
nothing for you in this episode.
Right.
If anything, you're going to feel bad because you'll want to be there. But you might say, Raymond Scott, you did a PAX pregame show for the East Coast PAX last year, and that is true. Last year was the first bitch PAX. It was a brand new thing. They had it in the Hines, this tiny little convention center.
It's not tiny. It's a pretty big convention center.
It's tiny relative to the kind of big cons we go to. I mean, Otakon wouldn't fit in that. PAX doesn't fit in that.
Well, those are the biggest of the big. It's big enough for pretty much any con but the biggest of the big.
Yeah, any small, like a 10 to 15,000 person con.
That's
can
a
fit
big
in there.
con. That's a medium to large. It's just not big enough for large.
Yeah, but anyway, last year, the new PAX East was an experiment. It was brand new. There was a lot of worry. We weren't sure if the PAX culture would make it intact on the East Coast, where people are, to quote at least one enforcer, slightly more aggro.
Yeah, well, it did in large.
PAX East was basically the last one in the Hines in Boston, 99% PAX Prime. Like, it was almost the exact same event.
Yep, only East Coast.
Yep, East Coast, and, with the minor difficulties that come with a new venue, but I have to say, PAX East had way fewer problems with a new venue than pretty much any convention I've ever dealt with.
Yep.
But the success of it was somewhat unexpected.
Well, it was unexpected by the people running it. It wasn't unexpected by us.
I remember when they emailed us, they're like, yeah, PAX, it's going to be in the Hines in Boston. And I was like, really? The Hines? You're going to fill that place up like 6 months in advance. Seriously, guys. So they knew, and they moved, and now they're going to be in pretty much the biggest place. There aren't bigger places unless they leave Boston and go to Baltimore.
They have a contract to stay in Boston, I heard.
Yep.
It could be a rumor. Anyway.
So this place can hold PAX probably for another year or two, but eventually they're going to expand into the whole thing, I'm sure.
Yeah, anyway, it's a gigantic building called the BCEC, the Boston Convention Exhibition Center, something like that.
But
there's a problem.
One, this is... we go to a lot of conventions, and different convention centers facilitate different kinds of conventions. Convention centers like the Baltimore one are pretty much the best for a con like this, because gaming cons...
Architecturally.
Anime cons, the kind of geeky cons that all of you and we like to go to are not like normal business conventions. People walk around a lot. The space requirements are very different. You need more smaller rooms as opposed to a few gigantic expo halls.
But you still need some gigantic expo halls.
And convention centers that small and medium-sized cons go to are great for that. The Hines has a pretty good layout. It's actually very much like the layout at the convention center for real PAX. The BCEC is a lot like the Jacob Javits Center in New York City, in that it's one of those big cement monoliths that has a lot of problems for a convention like this. So it is difficult to say how well the space will be utilized and how well the space will serve PAX's purposes.
Yes. However, I'm sure that because the space is so large, there will be great improvements in terms of being able to get into an event and line waiting, right? There are big problems at the Heinz waiting in line to go to a panel, right?
Yep.
Because there just weren't enough seats in the room and all these sorts of things. If they make the rooms big enough, which they can do with all this enormous space, they're not even using the whole convention center because it's so enormous, that the panel rooms will be so large that hopefully, ideally, you'll just be able to walk in or out of panel rooms at will
Coupled
with no
with-
line waiting.
This is purely anecdotal evidence. I don't have any
It's
numbers.
a possibility. I can't guarantee that that's what
I don't have any
happen.
numbers from PAX. This is just my opinion. But in the last 3 years of PAXs, I have personally seen a decrease in the number of panels I looked at where the rooms were completely full and they had to shut the doors.
Mm.
And I have a lot of ideas as to why this is the case. One is that they've increased the sizes of rooms and they've reshuffled when events are. And also that a lot of the panels are actually community things or journalist things where, not to disparage anyone and not to name any names, it's kind of the same content every year.
Yeah, a lot of times, there'll just be a panel like get together for, Internet Video Show X. So all the fans of Internet Video Show X go to that.
And those things are awesome. There's a ton of people there, but that's not going to fill the room anymore.
Yeah, and if it's the same Internet Show X every single PAX, it's like, all right, this is why we never do Geeknights the panel. We always do, a specific topic, that appeals to all gamers and not just like, all right, we're Geeknights. What's up, other Geeknights fans? Hello, How are you? Okay. But
I think that coupled with the bigger rooms, because one, let's just go straight into the differences between this PAX East and the last one. There are more panel rooms.
Yeah, they
so
added a panel room.
So there are many more panels as a result.
That's good.
And some of the panel rooms are much bigger because the space is much bigger. I think the end result is, this is just my guess, any panel you want to go to, unless it's a crazy popular one, which, not to toot our own horn, might include ours, because our panels pretty much consistently fill the room unless they're at like 10 a.m. on Sunday.
Yeah, but you don't really have to. There are some that are just like so insanely popular, like famous person.
Yeah, well, that was what I was about to say. The only panels that I think are going to fill up, where you're actually going to have to line up an hour or more in advance, are anything involving Will Wheaton or Mike and Gabe and Tycho, or anything that is ultra, like the standby ultra popular things, like a special event.
Yeah, but a lot of those things will be in main events, and hopefully they will make main events large enough that you won't have to really wait in line. You'll still have to wait in line, because the way they do main events is there's a queue room, and you wait in the line room, and then when that main event begins, you go in. Right? That's how it works for the beginning of concerts, or for the keynote, or for anything like that.
So if you want to go to a panel, just look at the title. Forget the description. No one reads that. Just look at the title of the event. If the title of the event does not involve a Will Wheaton or some other very famous person in the PAX culture, or it is not a title that very clearly is going to draw a very large crowd, like Dungeons & Dragons sucks and why you shouldn't play it. I mean, a lynch mob's going to form outside
Meet
of
the
that
creators of Famous Game.
Yep. Or see the unveiling of Duke Nukem Forever 2.
Yeah, new game that everyone wants to play. Unveiled, sneak preview, see stuff you won't be able to see anywhere else ever.
Portal 2 with swag.
Anything with swag, it's a huge crowd, yeah.
I guess you gotta look at the description for the swag. Very few panel titles say swag.
If there's a line waiting situation, just be prepared to wait in a line, get to the thing a little early, and if it's not a line situation, then just
don't bother. Just wait and just show up at the event. I don't think any of
I hope. I can't guarantee, but I hope.
I do not believe that the majority of the panels will fill the rooms to capacity.
Yeah.
And I think you can get away with just kind of showing up at the last minute.
However, for things such as the keynote, right, you're gonna have to wait at the beginning of the con, and for the closing ceremonies, you're gonna have to wait at the end of the con.
Let's talk about that, because we're not sure of the numbers for how many people the main events hall at the new venue can hold.
That is true. However, I mean, it is possible that the number of people that can be in main events is equal to the number of people with badges, but I can almost guarantee it's going to be less than that, right?
So not
everyone with a badge can fit in main events at the same time. That is unlikely.
Having talked to some enforcers and also having just looked at the BCEC's website, and as a journalist, I actually emailed them and talked to them. I called them pretending I wanted to do a convention so I could just talk about room sizes and everything. My guess is that the getting into of main events will be much like PAX Prime prior to Benaroya Hall, where as long as you showed up reasonably early to get in line, like 1 to 2 hours before the keynote or the Omegathon finale, you'd pretty much be guaranteed to get a spot.
And that's the beginning of the con anyway, so there's nothing to do before the keynote except wait in line. But remember, bring board games and DSs to play in line.
And if you waited for the concerts until they were underway and you missed like the first half hour, in PAX Prime, you could usually always just walk in. There was plenty of room.
There was confirmation that the wristbands for concerts are done away with.
That's gone.
So I can almost guarantee that because concerts there's no seating, it's just an open room, I can pretty much guarantee that concerts will just be walk in, walk out freely.
So if you went to the most recent PAX...
Almost guarantee.
Obviously, you couldn't just walk into the concerts. Everything just filled up because Benaroya Hall couldn't seat that many people, and there wasn't really standing room. But if you went to PAXs before the most recent one, that wasn't the case. You literally could go to any concert, Friday or Saturday, and just walk in 10 or 15 minutes after it started.
Yep.
No trouble.
Yep.
So I think we're going back to that. I think that is going to be the end result, because I think even if the space is bigger, it will eventually get mostly full because a lot more people are going to be at this PAX.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and also we can never predict what a fire marshal might do. Right, there's always a question.
Yeah, conventions that have had
none of the information that we're giving you is like official information. This is just our best estimates as experienced PAX goers.
Yep, and just convention goers in general,
and researchers of this. We research, we find out all the information we could find out.
So big change, tabletop. We have pretty good authority on is way goddamn bigger.
Is it one big area or is it multiple small areas?
I believe that there's one big area, but there are also many small rooms.
Oh, okay. Because the thing is that the one big area tabletop is good because there's never a shortage of tables, but loud. And for a lot of games, an RPG, you need some quiet or else you're going to lose your voice real quick, especially teaching a game.
Oh my God, in MagFest.
You teach one game, you could lose your whole voice speaking over a loud room.
At MagFest, after I ran the sword like the third time, I literally couldn't talk anymore.
Yep.
But the telling is, and we talked to some PAX people about this, tabletop's going to be pretty damn big. And my advice to you, if you're going to PAX and you are not a tabletop kind of person, go over there and play games with strangers. Yeah. That is going to be, I think, the best part of PAX.
We said this all the time, pretty much anytime we talk about PAX, but if you are at PAX and you are not doing something at that moment, like you have, if there is not an event that you have planned at this exact moment in time and you're not eating or showering or sleeping, right? Tabletop is the default activity. It's like not do anything right this second, no panels right now.
Now, granted, there is the other kind of person, the video gamer, who will go to the console free play.
You could go to console free play. However, the way console free play works is you sign up to check a game out, and then you wait for your number to be called. So in console free play, it's possible that you could be spending a lot of time, depending on how busy it is at that exact moment. You might be spending your time up there just waiting.
Well, the real advice for both of these is that in both console free play and in the tabletop, PAX is way friendly. I think a lot of people who have never been to a PAX are going to show up to this con. Pretty much, if you just say, hey, anyone want to play X, you're going to find a group within about 5 minutes.
Yeah, if some other guy checked out Street Fighter from the console free play, go up and play with him, right? But if you want to check out something, it might be some time before, you
But tabletop, you're much more likely to get a game going much quicker, partly because of the culture of tabletoppers, partly because of the way the area is going to be set up, partly because the enforcers over there tend to be very, very knowledgeable and attentive of tabletop games, because usually they're the passionate types who want other people to play the games. So you go up to an enforcer over there and be like, hey, what game should I play? They will probably just hand you a game without even saying anything. Yep. And it'll probably be a good game.
Yep. Well, it's even a bad game can be pretty entertaining, right? We didn't play test this at all.
Suggested games. Bananagrams is going to be big.
Bananagrams, huge.
In fact, I would recommend buy Bananagrams ahead of the con and just bring it.
Yep, because you never know if the library is going to run out. Like, if you want to play Dominion, they might all be checked out and be full.
Bananagrams, you can whip that out in line and clean it up if the line starts moving real quick.
Yeah, also a very good choice. Jungle Speed.
Jungle Speed is like the go-to game.
Yep.
Dominion is going to be goddamn everywhere.
Yep.
In fact, I think you'll see more Dominion than anything. Dominion and Bananagrams is my prediction.
Yep. That's what's been popular. It's sort of like obvious, right? Do you think that this is going to be a game that people haven't? It's like it's going to suddenly burst onto the scene, like a hot new game.
Honestly, in tabletop, I can't think of anything. I think there's going to be a lot of WotC stuff. The D&D, do a dungeon delve, whatever. But that's always very well done. So if you like that stuff, go do it. We're going to try to really push some indie RPGs in that area.
Yep.
But I guess if you've never been to a PAX before, and this is your first PAX, I know a lot of you have probably never been to any sort of PAX before, and you've been to other gaming cons, my advice to you is that PAX is nothing like other gaming cons. But if you've never been to a PAX before at all, you can skip on a lot of the gaming your first time and do things like all the concerts and all the big events. So,
well, I mean, you can do those and get a lot of gaming. PAX is long. You get a lot of time.
But I guess my advice is don't skip the concerts to game if it's your first PAX. At least go to one of the concerts. But
yeah, that is one thing about PAX is the concerts are awesome, but they are pretty much mostly the same concerts at every PAX. So if you've seen them and they're not your favorite bands in the world, you know, you don't need to see them again necessarily.
PAX veterans tend to go through 3 stages. The first stage, the neophyte PAXee, is go to both concerts because holy fucking God, is it awesome.
Yep.
The next stage is pretty much only go to the concert that you care about the most, either Friday or Saturday, and game all night the other night.
Mm-hmm.
The third stage is us, which is game all night until they kick you out every night. Last PAX was, we stayed until like 2 a.m. when the enforcers were like, all right, guys, you got to go to bed. We're locking the room. Get out.
All right, but yeah, whether you're new to PAX or old to PAX, right, there are some things you absolutely must go to no matter what. And these things are, number one, the keynote, right?
Yes.
The keynote this year at PAX East is Jane McGonigal, who actually has a degree in game theory, and she did a TED Talk, and she is like a genius who is very smart. And you should go and hear what she has to say.
Every PAX keynote has been, without exception, amazing. The least good one in recent memory was Will Wheaton's, and it wasn't bad. It was actually really great.
No, he has a little. It's like he does a good keynote with a lot of pandering.
He played the Woo game with the audience. I don't think people realize what the Woo game is at PAX that much. However, if that is the worst the keynotes have ever gotten, that's like, yeah,
good.
It was 8 out of 10 instead of 9 out of 10.
Right. So anyway, also immediately following the keynote, don't leave the room because it's Q&A number 1. Now they do 2 Q&As, I believe. Right?
You want to go to the first
with
one.
Mike and Jerry, right?
Yes.
But the first one is really the one you want to go to.
Now,
I mean, if you're someone who really only cares about gaming and you don't care about Penny Arcade, then maybe you shouldn't, don't need to go to the Q&A. But
see, I would say no, you should go anyway because the Q&A is now, it's a little less so. One thing we didn't expect that happened at the last PAX East was that the Q&A had a lot more actual questions for Gabe and Tycho. Like, how do you do this? What do you do? Because a lot of these people had never seen them before.
That's true.
At PAX Prime, it is basically you get to stand in front of a microphone and there are thousands and thousands of PAXees in the room. Gabe and Tycho are on stage. You say something, they react to it, and maybe it's funny, and then that's it. Most of the questions are not actually questions.
I mean, we go to it because it's sort of a ceremonial kind of thing, right? With the hustling and all that.
It really kicks off the con. Like, it is a huge part of PAX culture.
Right. But there are going to be people who go to PAX who are not necessarily fans of Penny Arcade, who are gamers, and they mostly care about gaming, and they could go to the expo hall right then, which is a good time to go right away. You can get in line for things and see things before the people see.
But those people should still go to the keynote.
Absolutely.
And the Q&A is immediately after the keynote, and you're already in main events.
But you could leave the keynote and go to the expo hall.
But then you miss the knuckle crack.
The knuckle crack is not that important if you're not a Penny Arcade fan.
The knuckle crack is pretty important because if you've never experienced that, they do this every year.
You can watch it on YouTube.
It doesn't quite have the same visceral effect as it has in person. It is one of the more sickening sounds a group of humans can make.
It's not that sickening.
It's pretty sickening.
Anyway. You're hyping it up too much. Anyway,
I think it's a pretty important
there's a Q&A number 1 immediately following the keynote. Very important to go to that. And then the concerts are Friday night and Saturday night.
The other big one, you should go to at least one someday. Maybe not every PAX, because this is one of the events where your choice is go to it or do a ton of other stuff. Is the Draw a Strip panel, the Make a Strip.
I've never actually been to it. The one time I was going to be at it, it got delayed and rescheduled.
Yep, and then we couldn't go to it because we had to do our panel.
Right. But yeah, the Make a Strip panel, you get to watch them make a strip of Penny Arcade. And, if you want a lull, you should go to it.
It's pretty great to watch. I think we have on DVD one of the last ones from when they made DVDs of PAX.
Yep. That's a very important thing. If you want PAX merch, specifically the PAX t-shirt.
Day one.
You got to go immediately Get in line as soon as possible.
They don't sell them after the con, and they sell out almost right away every year.
They're going to sell out of, they won't sell out of everything, but they sell out of, for example, if there is a special PAX merch, such as the scarf from last year, it will sell out very quickly.
That PAX East scarf is in high demand.
The official PAX shirt that will say, PAX East 11 on it, that will be sold out very, very quickly. You need to go and get one right away. So as soon as you have an opportunity, go get in the merch line. It's going to be a long line. It doesn't take that long, but get in that line, buy what you need to buy. They have discount packs where you can get 2 shirts and a poster and a scarf for less money than they would cost separately. They do that kind of stuff. But don't ignore the merch table. If you have any slight desire for PAX merchandise, you need to run and get it before it sells out, because it sells out every time.
So the venue itself aside, the panel rooms are bigger. We have it on pretty good authority that the philosophy of this PAX East is to do everything the same as the last PAX East because it worked so well, but bigger. The rationale for that is that PAX East, it was kind of, everyone wasn't sure how it would go, and it ended up going basically perfectly. So now that it's a new venue, it's kind of like this whole new ball game. So at least the first year, we've just got to make sure that everything still goes perfectly. As long as there are no disasters, next year is when maybe different stuff will start happening.
PAX East 2012.
So if you've been to bitch PAXs in the past, expect it to be exactly the same, but a lot bigger and with a much better panel and main event situation. Now, let's talk about hotels in the venue, because at all other PAXs, and PAX Primes are like this, and the old PAX East, all the hotels and the convention center are right next to each other, and there's awesome food right there.
And there's hotels attached to the convention center, and there's food to eat. So you never have to go, really. It was great locations, right? The Seattle Convention Center and the Hines are located so well. They're attached to malls, right? So you can grab food really quickly, all kinds of food ranging from, cheapest cheap to, glorious 5-star dining right nearby. Your hotel is right nearby. You don't have to take a long trip back and forth to hotel. Super convenient. You need food, you got food. Need to go to bed, you go to bed. Wake up, play games. So awesome.
The BCEC is basically far away from everything we know of that is good and holy in Boston.
Right, so here's the situation, right? And this is, you can't do anything about it now. It's too late for this advice.
Most of you are not staying in the only good hotel.
There is one hotel we're staying in because we jumped on it immediately. The Westin is attached to the convention center, right? There might be one or more hotels that are nearby.
I think there's a Renaissance over there.
Yeah, there's one or two that might be nearby, but that's it. And if you're buying a badge, say now, or you don't have a hotel yet, odds are your hotel is going to be kind of far away from the BCEC. And you're going to have to take the T to get over there or something.
It's both good and bad. The bad part is that obviously you're not right next to the convention center. It's not the old, let's walk up to the room for 10 minutes to chill and come back down before dinner, drop off our merch, whatever. But the pro is, if you're staying in all the usual hotels, which are actually kind of over by the Hines, that area has way good food.
Yeah.
So if you're not staying near the convention center, my advice to you is get up kind of early, get an awesome breakfast at the Trident Cafe or all those other places. Maybe we'll try to link to the really good ones, but really the Trident is where you want to go. They have the best breakfast.
There was another secret awesome breakfast. I forget the name of the
I'm not going to tell anyone that one because I'm going to tell blessed people that one. But all the rest of you go to the Trident.
Which is still really awesome, yeah.
That place has some of the best waffles and the best loose leaf tea I've had in a long time. So get an awesome, gigantic breakfast, and then go over to the convention center, make do for lunch, and then when you want to get food, maybe 3 hours before the concerts or your end run into the night, go back to your hotel, walk 2 or 3 blocks away from the Hines or away from your hotels into the restaurant district by those kind of Boston equivalent of
the same place with the
brownstones.
Trident Cafe is Newberry Street.
Newberry Street. That is where all the good restaurants are. Get a crazy huge dinner and then go back to PAX.
Yeah. You're pretty much, if you're going to be somewhere where it's going to take you time to get back and forth to the convention center, you got to really think about how much stuff you're carrying with you. You got to make sure you got water. You got to worry about, bags full of stuff you may have bought or board games you might be carrying with you.
Which is not a concern people usually
have. You got to worry about,
PAXs.
time that you're losing going back and forth and back and forth. So you want to minimize your back and forth trips.
But take advantage of this. Eat at the restaurants that are by your hotel. Not at the restaurants by PAX.
Yeah, the restaurants near PAX East, because the hotels are limited over there, the restaurants are also limited over there.
There is a mixture of really crappy places and really expensive places. I mean, I can't speak for any of them. I don't know the area, and I don't know anyone who knows the area
But
very
they're
well.
near the Heinz, the previous convention center. There was a ton of awesome food of all kinds. But near the new convention center, the food supply is much more limited.
Also, if you want to go
I'm
out,
sure there'll be concessions in the convention center, and usually I recommend against those because they're overpriced, but they actually might be viable for lunch at this convention center if there aren't any good lunches nearby. I mean, the nearest McDonald's is a half a mile.
But
If you even were willing to go to McDonald's.
a lot of people for the evening of PAX will go out for dinner and drinks and basically not come back. And I think there's going to be a culture at all the PAX hotels, like the big PAX hotels that aren't next to the center, of gaming in the lobby and a lot of PAX people hanging out at the restaurants over that way.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in all those hotels, check the Twitter and pay attention and basically take advantage of all those restaurants. Don't even bother with the stuff by PAX because that's kind of the only benefit you get to staying in those hotels.
Yep.
So milk it for all it's worth.
Yeah. But yeah, this is why in the future, any convention you go to, if it's a big convention, the kind of convention that sells out, a San Diego Comic-Con, an Otakon, a PAX, right? You need to buy your badges the day they go on sale.
It's tricky.
And
for
you
PAX,
need
you
to-
should do that. For other cons, you shouldn't because, like, for example, Otakon, you cannot transfer your badge if you buy it. So if you buy it and then you can't go, you're screwed. PAX, you can just sell your badge. You can just sell it to whoever you want.
Yeah.
So,
But even
PAX,
for Otakon, if you don't buy your badge right away, you might not get one.
Otakon doesn't sell out that early. The hotels
Plus,
sell out.
a lot of the conventions, they will give you a discount for buying earlier. And
PAX is the convention. I'm really going to give this advice, though, and I think Scott is 100% right. If you even think you want to go to PAX, buy your badge the day they go on sale and get a hotel room the day they go up. You can cancel a hotel room and it won't cost you anything, and you can easily, trivially sell the badge and probably make a minor profit on it.
Yeah, PAX West badges are going on sale very soon, so pay attention to that if you have any plans to go to Seattle.
Don't think you can scalp them. There's rumblings of increased anti-scalper technology.
Right, but there's no anti-Craigslist technology. Or other or eBay or other legitimate means of selling.
Yeah,
right?
and they're very open about you can sell if you legitimately can't come or
go
don't
to the
wanna
PAX
come,
forums and you'll find another PAX person who's like, "Oh shit, I didn't get a badge because they didn't listen to our advice."
I guarantee you can sell an unused PAX badge if you need to.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. I mean, if you're a veteran of PAXs, you know the deal. The only difference is that this con is going to be bigger and further away from the restaurants than the previous PAX East. If you've never been to a PAX, PAX is way different from all other cons, and generally everything about it will be better, most likely, in your eyes.
Yep. The only other piece of advice I can give you is that, everyone has the thing that they're interested in, right? We said you should, default to tabletop and, the things that we like to do. But everyone has a thing that's their thing. Even within, this gaming community, you think everyone's a gamer. But there might be some people, they specialize in D&D, right? Or they specialize in, they really want to see Portal 2. Or they really want to see, certain kinds of things. Whatever that thing is, immediately after Q&A 1, go for that thing that is so important to you and make sure you get it done, right? If there's some panel that's like the most important thing to do, it's the number one reason you went to PAX, you're so excited about it, make sure you go to it, early enough. Don't miss out on that thing that's important to you, whether it's, the fancy steel battalion room, if they have that again, which they probably will, right? Or, if it's you want to play like some awesome D&D campaign, well, better go over to the WotC area or Magic Tournament. Make sure you sign up before it fills up.
Yep. Now, simultaneously, my advice to you is that the expo hall is crazy. Like, you will be shocked at the opulence and just the money that's being thrown around. However, I recommend never waiting in line for anything in the expo hall.
Right.
Very rarely is it worth it.
I have never waited in line for anything in the expo hall, right? For example, you could have waited in line to see a Civ 5 video, right? But that was at the last PAX East a year ago. But now I just have Civ 5 on my computer, right?
Yep.
How impatient, was it really worth waiting in that line for hours and using up precious time?
There was
at
only
PAX?
one time it was worth it. The people who got that Fallout Boy puppet. That is like the only piece of swag that has a cultural legacy.
Right, but I mean, the thing is, right, it's like you only have 3 days at PAX, and they're not even 3 full days because PAX isn't all night. So, and the expo hall closes even, earlier
Well,
than PAX
we say
closes.
PAX isn't all night. We don't know if it'll happen at this PAX because of the diaspora of all the different hotels. But
Diaspora, what the hell are you talking about?
with this PAX, maybe we'll see what happens to all the other PAXs where there is crazy gaming going pretty much all night in the hotel lobbies.
Yeah. But the thing is, right, you're going to wait and say a line to see some game or play some game that's not out yet for X hours at PAX. Those are PAX hours. They're more valuable than regular hours. And then you're going to play that game for what, 10 minutes, 15 minutes? They're going to, give you maybe some swag, right? Was it really worth it, right, to do that when in 6 months, maybe 4 months, you're going to have the game, right? So if that's the thing you really care about, that's what you live for, that game, that's your game, then maybe it's worth it. But in my opinion, just be patient. There's tons of things to see and do at PAX to fill up all your time and be thoroughly entertained where you won't have to wait in a line to see a preview of a game or anything like that. Most of the expo hall, you don't have to wait for things. You can just see them straight up. Do all those things and then, spend the rest of your time actually playing games and seeing panels and seeing events that, things you could not do if you were not at PAX.
Speaking of panels, I'm working on having it printed out so we can just give it to people at the con, but we'll post it online too. Between us and all our friends, we're actually doing a lot of panels at PAX. So
yeah, I already can think of like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So 4 or 5 panels of friends of ours are doing, in addition to the 3 that we are doing.
Like, for example, Luke Crane and Jared Sorensen, Action Castle and Burning Wheel and Inspectors and Free Market, all those games. They're going to be there doing panels.
Yep, they're also going to have some sort of, I don't know if did they get a booth or did they have some sort of area where they are demoing games?
We will likely also be demoing those games.
It's possible. Who knows how much time we'll spend doing that. But yeah.
So we will post our path through PAX of panels that we think you should attend, but we haven't completed that yet because I don't know everyone's schedules. They have not told me.
When the PAX schedule appears, right, we will post our Geeknights recommended PAX schedule, sort of the Geeknights track.
Yep, follow the Geeknights Twitter because we will be posting updates pretty much throughout the con.
Oh, that's one more thing, right? At the con, you're going to want to have a smartphone if you got one, and you could get the con schedule on there, and you can, look at tweets with the hashtag, #PAX. And you can see all the stuff that's going on and keeping, if there's spontaneous events or anything like that, you'll know what's up. And it's going to help you out a ton, especially maps. Maps will help you out a lot also.
All right, I think that's pretty much enough. I mean, you'll figure it out when you get there. And
yeah, there's only so much that advice can help you. You need to have, experience pretty much does the rest.
However, if you really want a lot more advice, we did an episode very much like this for the last PAX East.
We've also done similar episodes for many, many conventions in the past.
We will link to all of them in the show notes.
If you have a specific question, you can come to our forum or email us or whatever. We can help you out. Also, PAX forums can be very helpful as well.
Yep, the the Penny Arcade forums in general are somewhat thorny.
But the PAX forum specifically, there is a sub-forum. If you go to the PAX official website...
It is still thorny, however less so.
It is not that thorny. I've actually been going to check it out.
Yeah, it's not like the ivory tower of the Geeknights forums.
No.
That's for sure. But if you see us, we will be there. And if you want to talk to us, I feel like I should point this out. It is probably not the best idea to try to catch us after one of our panels because usually we're trying to get the hell out of there to get to some other event.
And people are mobbing us.
And we need to clear the room. So if we finish a panel and you have a question, you'll probably want to email us or try to catch us like later in tabletop.
Yeah, you can come and see us if you know what we look like, right? Anytime. We're around the con. If you see us, just be like, hey, whatever you got to say.
We stand out, and you'll probably find us in tabletop if nowhere else. But after our panels, we really need to help the enforcers clear the room out so that we can then clean up and get out of the room.
Yeah, you can also, ask an enforcer if they know who we are. Quite as few of them do, and they might be able to tell you our current location.
Especially the people who run the various theaters and the people who run the tabletop. Yeah. They will probably remember us or know who we are.
I also think that I believe enforcer sign-ups might be going on right now still. I think if you want to be an enforcer, you can.
It's pretty likely you could, because think about how much bigger this PAX is. They need help. So if you have any thought of enforcing, go sign up. And if you have any thought, and it is too late by the time you listen to this, go find out what you need to do to sign up for next time, because the enforcers have a damn good time, and it is not like staffing any other convention you have ever seen. It's also a good move if, say, the badges sell out. This This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.